if you're dreaming of something, if you're thinking of something, I feel like in another life, in a different dimension, this is something we've already done. And it's calling our name. It's like it happened already. And it's like trying to give you all the clues for you to like find that calling that's within you that just feels right. What's going on, guys? Pena here, your host for Walking Manifestator, and I am super excited to be here because I have a very important topic that I want to discuss with us, and that is going to be how your inner thoughts truly form the reality that you're living in. And if you followed along through the episodes, you know that I was not always the type of person that thought things in the way that I do now. I think that sometimes in life, we go through situations that we tend to identify with who we are. And think about it. For most of us, depending on where you were raised, if somebody asks you like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, who are you, right? Or what do you enjoy? Typically for most of us, like we've been conditioned to now answer with like that question of what do you do for living? Like actually answering what your job entails, right? Oh, well, I work at this place, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a real estate agent, or I, am a vet, whatever it is. We have been so conditioned to create this identity around what we do for a living as who we are. And I think that most of us can agree with the fact that a lot of people are not necessarily happy in the job that they live. I'm not saying everybody, but for most people, they're not truly happy with the job they have. And a lot of the times people would rather sit there and say, yeah, but this is all there is, and this is why I'm here, versus trying to really figure out what is it that lights them up? What is your dream? What is something that you can sit here and say, I would get paid, I would literally do this without even getting paid. And I don't know if you're listening to this on a podcast or if you're actually watching the video on YouTube, but as I say this, I can literally feel the energy just traverse through my entire body, because it is something that for the longest time, I felt that I needed to do something that was going to bring me a monetary exchange. And that didn't necessarily mean I was going to be happy for whatever the job was, right? One of my first jobs was working at a nursery. And at this nursery, essentially, I was watering plants. I remember telling people that I worked at a nursery and then thinking, oh, like you take care of older people? And I was like, no, like I take care of plants. And I remember that a lot of these things that I was doing, I was happy. Don't get me wrong. I was happy because I was actually able to make a living, quote unquote. I was not making much money, but it allowed me to buy myself the things that I needed at that time. I was 15 years old. I had just turned 15. And I remember a family member that saw that I was definitely going down the wrong path, was like really trying to just help me like get into now working and doing something, with my time. And she got me this job. And I remember that I was there and I was just happy to make money. But then as I've grown and as I've been able to learn from amazing individuals that share their stories, I have found that the more you look for what it is that truly inspires you, what is it that truly makes you feel alive when you're doing it, whether that's being a painter, whether that is creating candles, whether that's selling teas, whether that's speaking to people and motivating them, whatever it might be, there is a reason for why that is such a passion to you. And think about this. Whenever you heard somebody tell you their dreams or whatever aspirations they have, how many times have you been presented with somebody sharing something to you and you hear whatever their dream is, but that just doesn't resonate with you? Like if I have a friend telling me, hey girl, I want to run a marathon, and that just is something that lights me up, and I want to go full force and I want to be an athlete. I'd be like, that is so amazing, but that is not for me, right? I would not look at that as something that I would actually want to pursue. So I believe there's certain things in your life that call your name, and there's a reason for that. If you believe in the fact that time is linear and you just believe that what's happened in the past is simply that, and what's happened in your present is simply that, and what's going to happen in the future is simply that, then your perspective is in a situation where you're only set on believing that what you can see is what's happening, right? Whatever already happened in the past, you're like, okay, it's done. And if I can't see it in the future, it's not something that's happened. There's a different perspective that I would like to share with you. And that's, if you're dreaming of something, if you're thinking of something, I feel like in another life, in a different dimension, this is something we've already done. And it's calling our name. It's like, it happened already. And it's like trying to give you all the clues for you to like find that calling that's within you that just feels right. Like I remember for the longest time, just telling myself that I wanted to do something of substance. I wanted to do something that was going to provide value and feel completely fulfilled doing it. And when I got into real estate, it provided me a tool to help people get into a home. And I felt a sense of fulfillment. I felt as if I was helping somebody achieve something that they were longing for so long. Some people, I remember coming to us and telling us like, hey, well, we were turned down, our credit wasn't good, and the lender essentially told us, come back when your credit is better. And they were so discouraged, and you could see it in their face. They were just pretty much defeated. And when we would sit there and tell them like, no, just because you don't qualify now does not mean you can't qualify in the future. Let's come up with a plan. Even if your credit is in the 400s, that doesn't mean you can never buy. That just means we need to have a plan and let's execute it. And I'm telling you, when those same people that we had been working for like even some of them 2 years, but they were doing everything we had suggested, and they came back and said, we're ready to buy. We did everything. We are now fully approved. Let's find a house. I am telling you, the feeling you get from helping somebody in a sense of not really knowing if you're going to get anything in return, because a lot of the times I feel like some of us, we do something with the expectation of getting something back. But when you do something just out of like wanting to pay it forward and help the other person, there's a different energy exchange. And then that same energy you gave with the assumption of just wanting to help them and that you know you are going to be taken care of regardless comes back to you. It is a beautiful moment. And I share this because I feel like now in this like trajectory that I have going on with really pushing forward my peak performance coaching, I see it as something that literally I have been teaching others to believe in themselves, because I was once a person that did not believe in herself. And I remember seeing people that did believe in themselves, trying to teach other people how to believe in themselves, but yet they had a very different lifestyle. I remember always like questioning like, well, yeah, that's easy for you because you've achieved that because of how your upbringing was. But when you see people breaking the cycle, that it really doesn't matter how you were raised. All that it matters is that you have the will to change whatever story you have been constantly telling yourself and move forward in the assumption of something bigger that you're looking to build. Again, there's a different energy. And there's a reason why there's certain things that just call your attention. There's a reason why there's certain things that you look at and you're like, oh my gosh, like I would so totally do this if I was not getting paid. I would so totally do this just because I love it, right? Just because this is something that for me catches my attention and brings joy to me. And in this example, defining your thoughts is very important, because if you think about it, anything that has ever been, anything that is, anything there ever will be, has started in a place, and that place is our imagination. That place is literally wherever across the globe and have a conversation. They looked at that person as if he was crazy. At one point, there were people that thought they can have a flying medal going through the skies and taking you from one place to another. And people thought they were crazy. And as we have seen in history, most people, when they're going in a route that is unorthodox, something that is not normal, not something that is commonly seen, typically those people are looked at as crazy. People are typically very used to judging because you feel intimidated by something that you don't understand. That's just the way our brain works. It's been proven. This is like decades and decades of research that has showed that our brain is conditioned to keep us safe. And the reason I say that our thoughts truly define our reality is because whatever story you're constantly telling yourself, whether it's, I cannot get a better job, this is all I was ever good for, whether it's, my household is always going to be falling apart, whether it's, my kids are never going to allow me to grow because I don't have enough time in a day to really do and pursue what I want to, whether it's, I just don't have it in me to go and work out because I am just exhausted by the end of the day. It can start with like something as small as what you have as a daily activity to something as large as life-altering events that are happening, right? That you are constantly telling yourself, like, this is out of my control. However, we cannot control the external world if our internal world is not taken care of. And if you think about it, whenever you're driving and there is somebody that cuts you off, what is the first thing you've been conditioned to think? And I know because I used to do it all the time. Whenever somebody would cut me off, I would literally think of, like, I was in a happy place and I would go to like 1,000 because I was like, oh my gosh, this person cut me off and what? And obviously you can fill in the blanks, right? It was not just like, oh my gosh, words. It was definitely not a happy place, right? And you know what's interesting is that the reason why you're so reactive to that is because you saw that growing up as well. So if you were in a car with your parents and somebody cut them off, you typically saw them like completely react to the situation and just completely go off grid, right? So that was already conditioning you. It was already conditioning to become your normal. These are neural pathways. This has been, again, scientifically proven for my analytical folks out there that I know sometimes it's hard to see things without like the science behind it, which again, in another episode, we'll definitely talk about how some things you simply can't prove. And even scientists have gotten to those points of like realizing like there's some things that you just simply can't prove, but they happen. But that will be for another episode. But essentially, our pathways, our neural pathways of our brain have been conditioned, and it's like this same trail that we keep going on and going on and going on that essentially makes this now a neural pathway that is so set that whenever you're trying to think of something in a different way, it automatically reverts back, kind of like a compass, right? Like it goes back to its normal state. The only way that you're truly going to break out of that pathway and create a new neural pathway is by conditioning your mind to believe in or think in whatever it is you're looking to achieve. So for instance, instead of getting in the mindset of, cursing that person out and wishing them the worst, maybe you wonder and you even put a whole story behind your head, because in our minds, there's always a constant story. Whether you see somebody walk in to the store and they look a certain way, you're already thinking of something. You're already assuming something because you don't really know, right? But what happens is that you can put a story together and say, you know what, this person is probably in a rush because who knows, maybe they have a family member that really needs them right now, or maybe they're late to work and I hope they get to where they need to get to in one piece and they're perfectly fine and nothing happens to them. When you can start reconditioning your mind to think that way, beautiful things happen. You're not giving your peace to somebody else. And this goes directly, it goes hand in hand with how you're perceiving yourself. Because if you're somebody that, let's say, is constantly insecure, let's say you're looking for that significant other that you really want to attract into your life, but you're somebody that's naturally insecure, I'm telling you, when you don't believe in yourself, you're going to attract people from that same energy, and much worse, sometimes not even attract any at all, because they can sense that insecurity. I had a person at one point, just quick story time. I was at the gym and this person approached me, and he says at the end of my session, because he was sitting there close by, and I could feel, when you feel somebody's looking at you, so I can feel somebody was looking at me, and I look, and he starts walking over to me, and then he tells me, he's like, hey, well, I was going to ask for your number, but I noticed that 2 guys already talked to you. Imagine if you and I were dating. Okay, I have never met this guy. Okay, so you're probably your face is cringing right now, but this is a true story. He's like, imagine if we were going out with each other, we're dating, and I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna get married or anything, but let's say we're serious, and I mean, you literally are getting approached by 2 guys. I'm gonna have to be worried about you coming to the gym all the time. And I'm literally so the old me would have been this dude is crazy. What in the world? But the other side of me was oh, okay, he's probably been in relationships that have made him feel really insecure, and therefore he's projecting that onto me. And I literally, in that moment, if we ever get to talk in person, I'm the type of person, I'm always, for the most part, okay, don't think I'm always smiling, but for the most part, I'm a happy person. If we have a conversation, unless I'm walking around, I'm not gonna be smiling all weird, right? But for the most part, I like to smile. I just enjoy that, because it says that that's contagious. When you smile to people, people will smile back to you, and I just like it. I was not always like that, okay? Before I would have what they call a bee face. So I literally just smiled at him, and I was like, well, and I said it in a very calm way, I was like, well, that's something that maybe you feel because of how in the past you've had relationships. And there I go with my Dr. Phil in me, right? I was like, but in reality, if you have somebody that you truly trust, that wouldn't be the case, and you shouldn't even have to feel that way. So needless to say, obviously the conversation died pretty quickly. But I say this because if he would have came with a different approach and just believing in himself, not worried about who I talked to before in that moment, and he would have actually worked on whatever issues he has had from a previous relationship, that dynamic would have been completely different. And I know, because I used to be the type of person that I was very, very, very toxic. If we were dating, I wanted to have your passwords, and I wanted to know, who your friends were. And I mean, the friends part, I feel still now, but I feel there's a level to that. It's not that it's not that I would expect to know your friends, as I feel as time passes, right? You want to actually introduce each other to your friends, right? Because this is somebody that matters to you. But the way it was done before, it was very, very different. I was somebody that I automatically, if I saw somebody that looked pretty, I would assume oh, you're probably going to check her out. A lot of toxic thoughts. And I feel now that I've continuously worked on how I see myself, I now know that if I feel comfortable with myself, I am going to attract somebody that feels comfortable and confident within themselves. And therefore, there is nothing that anybody in this external reality could do that would take my focus away from this person, other than that person. If that person started to act differently and making me feel like they themselves are insecure, then I feel that would change completely the energy. But as long as there's mutual respect, there's a now sense of worthiness within yourself, everything is completely different. And that's why that identity of yourself is so important. I heard not too long ago somebody saying that they would never really get over their ex. And I think that is something that just goes to show the person has not worked on what they presume as what it is that their paradigm is. So let me elaborate. If you think that you're never going to get over your ex, then so it shall be. Because in one way or the other, you are claiming that as your reality. You're making that be, I'm just never going to get over my ex. And you're always going to compare them. You're always going to say, why is this person acting a certain way? The other person didn't act that way. But that is just something that now you are actually self-sabotaging any future relationship you might have because you have not gotten rid of whatever you needed to fix in that first relationship. And this is so important because the more you become aware with what it is that you need to work on, you will attract people in that energy that is just going to completely change your life. I literally 3 days ago, so on the 19th of December, I had this moment where I was like, you know what? I've been saying I want to grow my agency. I want to teach more agents how to grow their business to over 6 figures. I've been able to do it consistently, and now I want to teach more people how to do this because I believe that I can be a great collaborator for them. I don't want to say it's just a leadership because I feel like we collaborate and we grow together. And you know what I did? I went online and I started looking for office spaces. For the longest time, I didn't really feel like I needed one. I used to have an office and this was with another person and things happened. After COVID, I was like, okay, we're both doing our own thing. And now I was like, you know what? I had this like internal gut feeling that I needed to get an office. So I told myself, I was like, you know what? Let's get online. The right one is going to appear. I made a video already in the assumption of like me finding my office, perfect office that I wanted, perfect views, perfect everything, right? That's what I was picturing in my mind. I kid you not, that same day, I found an office that was literally perfect, everything that I was looking for. And here's how life will test you, okay? And I don't like to use the word test because then it implies that there's like a right or wrong way. But for context, we'll use the word test just to test your faith, right? And how much you really believe in what you're saying you're believing in. So there's 2 office spaces available in that building. One of them was smaller than the other. And when I saw the smaller office, I was like, okay, yeah, like this could work. And then I saw the large office and I was like, oh, this is the one I really, really would want to have, right? Significantly different in price. And when she was telling me like all the details, I was like, okay, like I'm going to still compare with another office, but I'll be back. I'll get back to you. So I go and check out another office the next day and I'm just like not feeling it. I'm not in love with it. So that same night I came back home and I got a penny and I was like, you know what? If I should move forward with the office space that I'm thinking of, like give me tails, and if not, heads, right? I was still, in a way, as you can notice here, I was trying to self-sabotage myself. And that's what I'm saying. Even when you're conscious, like there's still programming within you that is trying to keep you safe, right? Because the safe part of me is like telling me like, no, like you don't need to spend that money. Like first get the team and then go get the office. But it's like, no, act in the assumption of already having the team. So get the office, right? So it's like an internal dialogue there. So I was trying to self-sabotage myself because I was asking the penny, right? What should I do? And I literally tossed the penny up and tails came out, which was move forward with the office. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this, right? So I literally started smiling and I was like, all right, well, since we already started it this way, let me go ahead and, move forward with now asking which office I should move forward with. I was like, now I switched it. I was like, heads, I move forward with the bigger office. Tails, I move forward with the smaller office. So I was thinking I was being like slick, right? I was gonna cheat my destiny there. And the penny comes up with heads, which was the bigger office. And as that happened, I literally just felt chills over my body and I started laughing and smiling because I knew internally that that's what I wanted. I knew that that thought in my mind was what I was envisioning. I knew that the bigger office was kind of going along with the lines of build it and they shall come, right? And I feel like a lot of restaurant owners, even like this is a crazy example, but perfect example. It's like you're not going to hear a restaurant owner be like, well, I'm going to get all the clients that are going to want to eat at my restaurant, and then I will get the restaurant. Like, no, my guy, you have to go and get the restaurant, get everything, get the chairs, get the food, get the workers, get the registers you're going to need, set up everything, and then wait for the clients to come to the marketing and get it going. So this is something that I am sharing with you because I feel like for the longest time, I've heard so many people just tell themselves like, I am not sure if I should do this. I'm not sure if I should move forward with this opportunity. I'm not sure if I should invest in that coaching program that's going to help me be better. I'm not sure if I should leave this relationship that is not making me happy. I'm not sure if I should, work on getting this degree that I feel like might help me. Whatever it is, there's a reason why you're not sure, and that's because you've never done it before, okay? And your brain is trying to keep you safe. So the more you tell yourself, you know what? I believe in myself. You know what? This is different. I was reading in one of the coaching programs that I'm in, some girl was like really concerned. She was like, I'm just concerned about, this like new stage in my life. I don't know if I'm going to be able to like teach people. And as that message came across, some people were saying like, yeah, it can be hard at the beginning, like, but just keep going. And a lot of people were just telling her it could be hard, it could be hard, it could be hard. And I commented and I was like, why don't you try changing the verbiage? Instead of saying it's hard, why don't you just say this is new to you? It's something new, you've never done it, but you're going to get used to it. She's like, oh my gosh, I love that. Like, that is so true. And that's literally what it is. Whatever you're doing right now, it is simply new to you. It doesn't mean that you cannot do it. It doesn't mean that you are incapable of doing it. It doesn't mean you're unworthy. It simply means you have not done it. And whatever it is that you've done up until this point in your life, at one point you did not know how to do, but you figured it out. You didn't know how to walk, but you figured it out. You didn't know how to eat with the freaking spoon, but you figured it out. You didn't know how you were going to pass that exam at school, but you figured it out. You didn't know how you were going to get that job, but you figured it out. You didn't know, but you figured it out. You acted in the assumption of figuring it out. So whatever you're doing in life, whatever you're trying to go for, whatever is making you feel like this is all you're good enough for, just put more energy into why you can succeed, why you can do it, why you are worthy, and move forward. You see, we often feel committed to this previous identity of ourselves. This identity that isn't worthy of speaking in front of others, this identity that isn't worthy of learning that new trait, this identity that is simply not good enough, because that's the reality. You're feeling like you're not good enough for whatever it is that you're looking to achieve. And that's why your thoughts truly define your reality, because if you believe you won't, then it won't happen. Henry Ford says this, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right. And it's so true. Like, why not, instead of saying you can't do something, why not just say this is new, but let's try it out? When you put that energy into something, everything changes. There's a lot of people that say, yeah, I know, mindset is everything. Yeah, I know, everything is energy. Yeah, I know. Okay, cool, but what are you doing about it? You'd be surprised how many people, like, sometimes I'll talk about like my passions about certain things and how I see certain things, and I'll like recommend to them like one of my favorite books, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural. That's like an all-time favorite. If you have not read it, highly recommend it. But I will share, because I love to share knowledge. I love that other people have shared this knowledge with me, and I want to pay it forward and I want to share it with other people. And then some of them, like when I share certain nuggets about what I've been able to implement, not just read, but implement in my life and how it's helped me, they're like, oh yeah, like I've read that already. Yeah, like I know about that. And I'm like, okay, awesome. But how are you implementing it in your life? How is that piece of whatever it is that you read actually being something that you're implementing in your life? And if you know that the conversation that you're having internally in your mind right at this second, whatever it is, whether it's this girl is crazy and I don't know what she's talking about, why is that? You might say, because you are. No, like really ask yourself, like, why is it that you're having that conversation? Why is it that the first thought that's coming is trying to, in a way, keep you safe? It's like, no, She's telling you to think positively, and she's telling you to think affirming thoughts, and she's telling you to see something that you have not done before as just something new. What? No. It's trying to keep you safe because it's easier for your brain to comprehend it that way. But when you start living with that and embodying it and saying, you know what, let's give it a shot. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I often change that verbiage, and I often say, what's the best that can happen? What is the best that can happen? Think about it that way. Because the more that you put yourself in a state of just fully understanding that you are the designer of your life, by whatever you're telling yourself internally, that is what you're going to attract externally. And a lot of people look for external gratification, external validation, external happiness, external bliss. None of that is ever going to work. It's going to work for a little short period of time. I can buy you a car right now. You're going to be like, oh, I'm super happy. I promise you within like 2 months, maybe a year, you're not going to see that car with the same happiness that you saw at the moment you got it. Because it was just a momentary happiness. It wasn't a everlasting happiness. Everlasting bliss, everlasting happiness, everlasting fulfillment, everlasting worthiness comes from within. No designer bag is going to make you feel that. No beautiful car, no beautiful house, no beautiful couple, nothing but you. You are the person that needs to feel whole within in order for you to bring that without. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this quote by Neville Goddard. He is an amazing author, spokesperson, publisher. I mean, he's amazing. And he says, "What is seen is made out of things that do not appear. Faith does not give reality to things that are not seen. It is loyalty to the reality that makes things appear. Can I see the facts the world sees and still believe in the unseen state? If I can remain loyal to the unseen state in some way, I will get confirmation of it." It's literally telling you, believe in what you cannot see, and that will bring it into your 3D. Believe in what it is that you cannot see, and you will be able to design that in your reality. It all starts with your mind. It all starts with your higher consciousness. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for giving me time today to listen to this episode. Thank you so much for all of the support. I am super happy to be here. I'm super happy to continue to share things that I feel like most of us can just implement in our life and are going to continue to help us be better. In our future episode, we're definitely going to be having hosts come on board because I would love to have more conversations with other people. And like I said, if you're interested in having anything in specific talked about, please send us an email. Our email is going to be info@walkingmanifestator.com. We would love to hear more about your story, your perspectives, and overall just grow with one another. Remember, it's all about community, and the unity is spelled with caps, all right? So I love you, sending you much love, and I'll talk to you on the next one.